Welcome to our candidate information webinar for the upcoming state by-election. I'd like to introduce myself, Amber King, Team Leader for Nominations and Electoral Material, and today I'm joined with Gareth Robson, Director, Election Operations.
Thanks Amber, and thanks for joining us.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we work today and the Aboriginal people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and recognise the diversity of Aboriginal people and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of New South Wales. Now in today's webinar, we will be walking through the key dates, electoral funding and disclosure, nominations and the ballot paper draw, electoral material, voting, candidate workers and scrutineers, counting and results.
With regard to the key date for state by-elections, it's important to note that all the key dates are available on our website. It's equally important to note that key periods and dates during an election cannot be extended. For example, nominations close at 12 midday on the nomination day. Late nominations cannot be accepted. With regard to electoral funding and disclosure for state by-elections, we're often asked what the difference is between candidate registration and nomination. These are two separate processes that serve different purposes. Being registered means candidates can lawfully accept political donations, fundraise, and pay for campaign expenses. This does not mean, however, that they are contesting the election. Being nominated means the candidate's name will be on the ballot paper, so electors can vote for them. The New South Wales Electoral Commission has an online portal for registration and disclosure. You can apply to register as a candidate or a third-party campaigner, update your registered details, enter details of political donations and electoral expenditure as and when they occur, e-sign and submit your disclosures, and lodge public funding claims after the election. Applying to register as a candidate or third-party campaigner online can be done using the Funding and Disclosure online system. If you don't already have access, you will need to request it via our website. Your details and the election details will be pre-populated for you. You can electronically sign the form before submitting, but please note, registration forms are still available in a PDF form on request. Please see our website for more information. Candidates who do not register before they are nominated will be deemed to be registered once they are nominated. Once nominated, all candidates can lawfully accept political donations, fundraise, and pay for their election expenses. Candidates must comply with disclosure laws even if they do not accept political donations or incur electoral expenditure. The cap on donations to a candidate is $3,600. The cap on electoral expenditure by a candidate is $301,200. Half-yearly disclosures of political donations and annual disclosure of expenditure must be lodged with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Public funding will be available for candidates who obtain 4% or more of the first preference votes. We will contact eligible candidates after the election. Please note that pre-election disclosure is not applicable for state by-elections. For candidates who are members of a registered political party, the party agent is responsible for accepting donations and paying them into the state campaign account of the party, making disclosures of political donations and electoral expenditure on behalf of the candidate. Independent candidates are responsible for operating their own separate campaign account and for making their own disclosures to the New South Wales Electoral Commission.
Now I'd like to talk about the nomination process and the ballot paper draws. Now, who can be a candidate? A person enrolled in New South Wales as at 6 p.m. on the day of the issue of the writ may be nominated as a candidate for a Legislative Assembly district. If the person is in doubt about their eligibility to be nominated as a candidate or to be elected, they should seek their own legal advice.
And Amber, they can find the date of the issue of the writ on the key dates on our website.
That's right, Gareth. Now, it's important to note that a candidate does not actually need to be enrolled within the district for which they are nominating. A candidate can be nominated by either a registered political party or nomination by 25 electors. In order to nominate by a registered political party, the registered officer or deputy registered officer is required in writing to sign the nomination. A registered political party is required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission 12 months prior to nomination day. Candidates who are nominated by 25 electors are required to have at least 25 electors enrolled within the district the candidate is nominating for at the close of the roll. As it is possible electors may not be enrolled within the district for which you are nominating, we do provide more space on your nomination form for you to provide more than 25 nominators to us at the point of lodging. We do recommend that you always provide more than the 25 nominators at time of lodging your nomination. You are reminded that a nominator can only nominate one candidate and you cannot nominate yourself. Nomination forms for the state by-election will be available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. There's a nomination form in the instance you are being nominated by 25 electors, or a nomination form for a candidate nominated by a registered political party. Each nomination form contains 4 sections, and that's the section for your candidate details, your nominated details, your nomination deposit return, and the Child Protection Declaration. It's important to note that your Child Protection Declaration is the only part of your nomination form that is publicly available and published to the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. You'll also find an amendment to a nomination in the instance you lodge a nomination and need to make a change to the name that you would like to be known as on the ballot paper, or provide the New South Wales Electoral Commission with contact details. You can do this by completing the amendment to a nomination.
It's important to note that a nomination is not valid unless it's accompanied by a Child Protection Declaration, which is in the form of a statutory declaration. Each candidate's declaration will be made public on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website from the day after the close of nominations. If a candidate makes a Child Protection Declaration knowing it to be false or not believing it to be true, they may be guilty of an indictable offence.
Now, a nomination must be lodged and the nomination deposit must be lodged with the election manager for the district that you are contesting or the New South Wales Electoral Commission. The period for which you can lodge your nomination will be available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website under key dates. As we've mentioned, it's important to note no late nomination can be accepted, and Gareth, a candidate cannot correct a nomination after the close of nominations.
And also a candidate cannot withdraw their nomination after 12 noon on the nomination day.
The nomination form and nomination deposit may be lodged with the election manager's office for the area for which you are contesting, or by appointment with the New South Wales Electoral Commission's head office. And you can call us at the candidate help desk to make an appointment. And the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website will display the address of the election manager's office and opening hours for you to lodge your nomination. The nomination deposit is required to be lodged with the election manager or the New South Wales Electoral Commission prior to the close of nominations. The nomination deposit is $250 for the Legislative Assembly. The nomination deposit may be made by cash, bank cheque, credit union or building society cheque made out to the New South Wales Electoral Commission. No electronic payments will be received for the state by-election. A candidate can withdraw their nomination prior to the close of nominations 12 noon nomination day. The withdrawal of a candidate form is required to be completed and lodged with the election manager. You'll find the withdrawal of a candidate form on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. It's important to note a registered officer or deputy registered officer for a political party cannot withdraw a candidate's nomination. The nomination deposit will be returned after election day in the instance the election is uncontested, a candidate dies or withdraws their nomination, or the candidate is elected or receives 4% of the total number of first preference votes. Candidates are asked to provide their nomination deposit return details as part of their nomination form at point of lodgement. The draw to determine the order of candidates' names on the ballot paper will take place in the Elections Manager's office the day following the close of nominations. The location and time of the ballot paper draw will be available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. Candidates or their representatives or members of the public or media are welcome to attend the ballot paper draw. I'd now like to talk about electoral material. Now, what is electoral material? Electoral material means anything including a how to vote card, poster or advertisement, whether it be in a tangible or electronic form. Electoral matter means any matter that is intended, likely or capable of affecting the result of an election or is capable of influencing the way an elector may cast their vote. The legislation provides requirements in relation to the content, type, placement and distribution of electoral material, which we also refer to as how to vote cards and posters throughout the regulated period. Now, the regulated period for the state by-election is from the date of the issue of the writ up until 6 p.m. election day. Prior to the regulated period, the New South Wales Electoral Commission or election manager has no involvement in the regulation of electoral material. During the regulated period, it's important to note that all electoral material must include the name of the individual who authorises the electoral material, the address of that individual, or in the instance your electoral material is being produced by the registered political party, it's required to include the name of the registered political party and the address of that party. In the instance your electoral material is printed, the name and address of the printer is required to be included on your electoral material. The authoriser's address and the printer's address must be a full street address. It is not able to be a PO box. Electoral material distributed on election day is required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. The New South Wales Electoral Commission will make ballot paper templates available to you following the conduct of the ballot paper draw. You may find the ballot paper templates will assist you in preparing your electoral material. An application to register electoral material will be available on our website following the close of nominations. Registered electoral material will be displayed on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website Monday 2 weeks prior to the election. Participants are encouraged to register material as early as possible from when registrations open, and registrations will open on the nomination day. Material that's registered early will allow the New South Wales Electoral Commission time to be able to communicate with you in the instance your material does not meet the legislative requirements, but it will also allow us to publish your electoral material and for electors who may be voting prior to election day to view that material on our website. Electoral material distributed before election day is not required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. However, it is important to note that your electoral material is still required to meet those legislative requirements. So you still need to ensure your electoral material includes your authoriser's details, and in the instance you are distributing your electoral material, it does need to include the printer's details, as I've talked about earlier. All electoral material distributed on election day is required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. And that's in the instance you are a candidate, a third-party campaigner, or any other person distributing electoral material, you are required to register that with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. It is an offence to distribute electoral material that is not registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Now, posters are not required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission. However, they are required to include your authorisers and printers' details, as we've discussed. Electoral material that is not required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission but may be distributed on election day include T-shirts, lapel buttons, pens, balloons, a business or visiting card that promotes the candidacy of any person in the election, a letter or other card that bears the name and address of the sender and that does not contain a representation of a ballot paper in use for that election, or general political commentary on a website.
Of course, many political participants will be producing electoral material on social media, and you still must comply with the rules for electoral material on social media, and this includes third-party campaigners who are electoral participants for this purpose. The distinction that is drawn is between whether an amount has been paid to the social media platform. So for instance, if no amount is paid to the social media platform, the name and address of the electoral participant on whose instructions the material was published must appear in the text of the post or in a photograph or image attached or embedded to the post, or in the about or the bio section of the web page or social media page for the person's profile or that participant's profile who made the post. Now, where an amount was paid to the social media platform or the person publishing the post, the name and address of the person on whose instructions the material was published must be legibly showing on all the social media or online advertising. This means it must remain visible in any video or image content at all times. This includes any paid advertising or boosted content on social media platforms or similar platforms. It includes if the electoral material only has a specific mention of electoral matter in an accompanying audio soundtrack. Social media and website authorisation samples are available on our website.
Automated telephone calls and automated text messages known as robocalls or robotexts containing electoral matter must include an authorisation, i.e. the name and address of the authoriser. Authorisation for robocalls is to be spoken. Authorisation for a robotext is to be included within the message. Any political advertising on radio and television must cease at midnight Wednesday prior to election day. Electoral advertisements on radio and television are regulated by the Commonwealth Broadcasting Services Act. This legislation is not administered by the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Electoral advertisements on radio and television are regulated by the Australian Communications and Media Authority. Electoral material and/or posters cannot be distributed or displayed inside an early voting centre or voting centre on election day. Electoral material and/or posters cannot be displayed or distributed within 6 metres to the entry of a voting centre or early voting centre. A person cannot canvass and/or solicit for votes or induce an elector to vote for a particular candidate using a loudspeaker, sound system, radio equipment that may be heard inside an early voting centre or voting centre. The legislation prohibits display of posters on or within the premises without the consent of an owner or occupier. A premise may include any structure or building. This includes electricity and other utility poles. Owners of a property may arrange for the removal of posters displayed without permission. New South Wales Police may remove any poster in breach of the Act. Posters placed in or within 6 metres to the entry of a voting centre or early voting centre will be removed and confiscated. Posters are not to be attached to power poles. Ausgrid and Essential Energy have advised posters will be removed. The Department of Education has requested that posters do not be displayed at the entry to a school that may be used as a voting centre on election day prior to 4:30 the Friday, the day prior to the election.
And Amber, I'd note that we ask all participants to respect school premises around an election day. There is plenty of time to enter the premises and erect your posters for the election day, but the Department of Education has been very clear that they ask that you don't enter before the time that we advise.
And I think the other piece of that is, Gareth, at the end of the day, when your candidate workers do pack up for the day, when the polling places close at 6 p.m, we do ask that you do ask your candidate workers to take your material with you, to take any of those posters at the end of the election as well.
Please do.
Participants are not permitted to enter an early voting centre or voting centre to retrieve electoral material that may have been discarded. Similarly, election officials are not able to retrieve discarded electoral material from a voting centre for you. Participants may request an elector return electoral material to them as they exit a voting centre. Electoral material must not contain voting directions that are misleading or could result in an elector voting informally. Electoral material may not use the name of a party in a way that may be misleading, or use the word independent and the name of a registered party in a way that suggests an affiliation with a political party. Electoral material must not contain voting directions that are contrary to the directions on the ballot paper, or direct an elector to vote using a tick or a cross. Now, there are criminal offences that electoral participants need to be aware of, and they include electoral material containing misleading statements about how to cast a valid vote, canvassing for votes in a voting centre, distributing electoral material during the regulated period without the correct authorisation, including electronic material such as SMSs, robocalls and social media, and the distributing of electoral material that appears to be an official communication from the New South Wales Electoral Commission or to have been authorised by the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Now, that's applicable at any time, not only restricted to the regulated voting period. Allegations about unlawful electoral material or unlawful conduct in or around a voting centre should be submitted in writing to candidates@elections.nsw.gov.au. An allegation about electoral material should include a copy of that electoral material, or in the instance the electoral material is published on the internet, please include a URL link or the name of the social media account and/or screenshot with your email. You may also contact the Candidate Help Desk on 1300 022 011. The following resources are available to assist participants in their preparation of electoral material. You'll find these resources on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. And if you do have any inquiries, please do not hesitate to contact us. Now, we're briefly going to talk about voting.
The following early voting options are available for eligible electors: postal voting, early voting, or telephone assisted voting for electors who are blind or who have low vision. The key dates for a by-election for postal voting will be available on our website. It is important to note that applications for postal voting close on the Monday before election day. Postal votes must be completed by 6 p.m. on the election day, and the completed postal votes must be received by the New South Wales Electoral Commission by the 13th day after the election day. For candidates and parties who are considering issuing postal vote applications in the community, there is a postal vote application form available on request. Changes to the postal vote application form cannot be substantial. The reply paid envelope used with your postal vote application campaign cannot appear to be addressed to the New South Wales Electoral Commission if, in fact, postal vote applications will be returned elsewhere. We recommend that postal vote application artwork is sent to us for review prior to printing, so we can review and make recommendations to help ensure you are complying with statutory requirements. No postal vote application website design should imply that postal vote application data is being submitted or collected by or for the New South Wales Electoral Commission. It is a criminal offence, as noted, to publish or distribute electoral material that falsely appears to come from the New South Wales Electoral Commission, and that is not just during the regulated period. The New South Wales Electoral Commission will also be conducting voter awareness campaigning regarding candidate and party postal vote applications, so the electors understand that the use of candidate and party postal vote application means an elector may be sharing their personal information with the party or the candidate. And if they wish, a postal vote application can be made directly to the Commission. Due to the short time to issue postal vote packs, to electors, completed applications must be delivered to the New South Wales Electoral Commission as soon as possible. Postal vote applications going via a candidate or party headquarters could result in delays to postal pack distribution. Applications must be received by the New South Wales Electoral Commission by the Monday before election day. Late applications cannot be accepted. Early voting will be available from the Saturday before the election day. Early voting days and hours vary between venues. For more information, visit our website. Voting on the election day will be between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. A list of the voting centres will be available on our website. We provide a number of services to assist electors both at early voting and on the election day, including translating and interpreting service, Auslan interpreters, and we also seek to employ election officials who speak languages spoken in your community. Voter projection information will be available on our website. This includes for early voting centres and election day venues and total vote projections for those venues.
Now I'd like to talk about candidate workers. Candidate and party workers act on behalf of candidates and/or political parties to distribute electoral material, which we may refer to as how to vote cards, as we've discussed, at early voting locations prior to election day and at voting centres on election day. Candidate workers are not required to complete an appointment form to engage in these tasks unless they also wish to act as a scrutineer. Candidate workers can distribute electoral material 6 metres from the entry of a voting centre. They may use the washroom facilities, enter a voting centre to talk to the voting centre manager, wear a campaign t-shirt within a voting centre, and they can cast a vote in an early voting centre or on election day in a voting centre. Now you can see here a sample or a picture of a voting centre. Now the image shows the 6 metre entry or defined space to the entry of a voting centre. At the beginning of voting each day, the voting centre manager or early voting centre manager will come out and introduce themselves to you, and they will define the 6 metres to the entry to the voting centre. It's important to note candidate workers cannot place their signs or distribute electoral material within the 6 metres to the entry of a voting centre. Candidate workers cannot, as I've mentioned, distribute electoral material within the 6 metres of the entry of a voting centre. They are not able to restrict the access for an elector to the entry to a voting centre. They may not touch a ballot paper, photograph or film electors, and they may not assist an elector in casting a vote unless it is requested by the elector. A declared facility is a hospital, nursing home or retirement village or similar that is determined by the New South Wales Electoral Commission. A declared facility is taken to be an early voting centre while voting occurs at that facility. Election officials from the election manager's office will visit the declared facilities for their district during the 5 days prior to election day to provide voting services for residents of a declared facility centre. No electoral material can be distributed by candidate workers during a visit to a declared facilities. It is important to note that our election officials will be provided with your registered electoral material for electors to view while casting their vote. There are resources available to candidate workers on our website, and that includes the Scrutineer and Party Candidate Worker Guidelines. You may wish to refer to the Candidate Handbook, and that the voting centre manager or early voting centre manager will conduct a briefing and come and introduce themselves to you, as I've mentioned, prior to voting each day. And please do not hesitate to contact the New South Wales Electoral Commission Candidate Help Desk if you have any inquiries. Now, moving on to scrutineers. Scrutineers play an important role in the election process. They represent the interest of candidates and registered political parties to observe that procedures are being followed by the New South Wales Electoral Commission. They observe that the election process is carried out fairly, impartially, and with integrity. A scrutineer's presence provides an additional level of assurance to participants and the public regarding the integrity of the election process. Scrutineers have the right to observe all stages of voting, scrutiny of declaration envelopes and counting, including the formality of ballot papers, or raise other queries or concerns they may have regarding the conduct of the election. Scrutineers may inspect ballot boxes before the commencement of voting, witness the opening and closing of a voting centre, observe the opening and extraction of ballot papers from declaration envelopes, including postal vote envelopes and declaration envelopes. Scrutineers may object to the formality of a ballot paper or determination of the preferences, but it is important that scrutineers accept the consequent decision made by the election official in charge. If the scrutineer is not satisfied with the decision, they may make a note of the details and will be informed that if it is an initial count, a final determination will be made throughout the check count process, or if it is within the check count, the candidate may pursue the matter through the Court of Disputed Returns. Scrutineers cannot record or photograph election processes. They may not handle or touch ballot papers or declaration envelopes or any other electoral material. Scrutineers may not be alone in a room where there are ballot papers or bring food or drink near any ballot papers. Scrutineers may not interfere with or attempt to influence any elector. They may not interfere with or attempt to influence any election official. They may not distribute electoral material when accompanying election officials, obstruct the access to voting centres, early voting centres, or a declared facility. And a scrutineer who commits any breach of these requirements may be guilty of an offence. You'll find on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website a scrutineer policy, and a scrutineer must be appointed in writing. And again, on our website, you will find the appointment of scrutineer form. A scrutineer is required to present an appointment of a scrutineer form at each venue they may attend. A scrutineer will be issued a vest and a name badge while conducting scrutineer activities. Resources are available to our scrutineers on our website. Scrutineers may wish to view the candidate handbook, the scrutineer and party worker candidate worker guidelines. They can attend the voting centre or early voting centre, manager briefings at the beginning of each day or prior to counting. And again, the candidate help desk is available to scrutineers to assist with any inquiries they may have.
Moving on to counting and results for a state by-election, there are firstly two counts to make note of. Firstly, there's the initial count. This is the first count of the first preferences on the ballot papers. It's conducted at voting centres on election night and at the election manager's office from election night onwards. The check count, or a second count of all the ballot papers, is conducted after the initial count on the election day. The results of the check count are considered to be the final count, which is used in the distribution of preferences. From 6 p.m. on the election night, the initial count will be conducted for every voting centre at the voting centre, some but not all early voting centres, and some but not all postal ballot papers. Information about the location of early voting, postal and declaration vote counts will be published on our website. Election night results will be published on the website from approximately 6:30 p.m. onwards. Please note that all counting will cease at 10 p.m. on election night. No counting will be conducted on the Sunday after election day and will resume on Monday. All ballot papers will undergo the following initial counts: the first preference initial count that I've already referred to, and the two candidates' preferred initial count. All Legislative Assembly ballot papers undergo an initial count. The ballot papers are examined and sorted according to the first preference for each candidate. Otherwise, ballot papers are moved to the informals pile, which are ballot papers where there is no first preference recorded, they cannot be sorted to a candidate as they appear to be informal, or if the voting centre manager is unsure how to sort the ballot paper. Please note these ballot papers will be reviewed by the election manager during the check count, and the final formality will be determined by our computer count system based on the preferences that are data entered from that ballot paper. The initial count is an indicative count. The results will be published progressively on our website. The two candidates' preferred count provides an indication of the likely election outcome by distributing the preferences from the other candidates to the selected candidates. A TCP count is not the official distribution of preferences. Two candidate preferred results will be published on our website. For the work, health and safety of our staff, all counting will cease on election night by 10 p.m. No counting will be conducted on the Sunday after election day, but other election activities will be undertaken. Any counts not completed on election night will continue on the Monday following the election. As noted, all ballot papers are then check counted, which is a second count and the count used in the distribution of preferences to determine the elected candidate. Check counting involves batching, where ballot papers are sorted into single preference ballot papers or ballot papers on which multiple preferences have been noted. The ballot papers are then data entered, in which all multiple preferences are entered into our computer count system by a data entry team, followed by a quality assurance process. Legislative Assembly elections are conducted using the optional preferential system. The instruction for voting is to write the number 1 in the square next to the candidate of your choice. You can show more choices if you want to by writing the numbers in other squares starting with the number 2. To be elected in the optional preferential system, a candidate must receive 50% plus 1 of the total formal votes in the count. This is called an absolute majority. If no candidate is elected, that is, no candidate has reached the absolute majority in the first preference count, the candidate with the least number of votes is excluded. This means the excluded candidate's votes are resorted to the other candidates who are remaining in the count, according to the second preference shown by the voter on that ballot paper. In this example, no candidate has reached the absolute majority, and candidate D has the least first preference votes and will be the first candidate to be excluded. The absolute majority is recalculated after every candidate is excluded. In this example, following the first exclusion, candidate A is ahead of candidate B and C, but candidate A still does not have an absolute majority. Candidate C has the least votes and will be the next candidate to be excluded. The absolute majority is recalculated again. Following this exclusion, candidate B has reached the absolute majority and is ahead of candidate A. Candidate B is elected. Information about the location and date of the distribution of preferences for the by-election will be published on our website. It cannot be conducted until the return of postal vote closes 13 days after the election. Candidates and scrutineers are welcome to attend the distribution of preferences, and final results will be published on our website.
This draws us to the end of our candidate information webinar today for the state by-election. If you do have any further inquiries, we do ask you contact the Candidate Help Desk on 1300 022 011, or alternatively you can contact us through the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. We do hope you have found today's candidate information webinar useful and informative. Gareth, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you.